Hi everyone and welcome back to the multiverse of 100 plus data science project series. In this video, you're going to be creating here a AI teaching agent system, or you can say AI teaching agent team using Python and the large language model. So without wasting time, let us start our tutorial right now. Let's have a look about the data flow summary. So we're creating here an AI teacher assistant which one is nothing but an role-based systems. So in this case, first we are taking here input from the user. So it can be a topic. So it can be the topic about the Python, or it can be the topic about the GenAI. Let's say you can say the GenAI, or it can be the topic about the quantum physics or quantum chemistry or quantum mathematics. Okay, you can give it to your any kind of topic. So after that, you're going to loading here our Groq API from the .env. I am talking about the environmental variable. However, we can storing here all of the secret informations. So we're going to storing here our Groq API, and using Groq, we can basically accessing here the free and open source model. And after that, you're going to generating here four role specific. You can see four role specific prompt for the topic that is passed to our large language models. And after that, you're going to asynchronously calling here the Groq API with the prompts. We're going to calling here the asynchronous. We are going to waiting for a few minutes. When the output is coming up, we're simply going to calling here these functions. Okay, so this is called the asynchronous function. It is waiting for some inputs. And as well as we're using here the internet connection, so that's why asynchronous is needed at all. Then receive the markdown response for the each role. So when we basically writing the prompt, and after that when we passing here our topics, so this large language model, I mean the Groq API, it give me some of the input in the form of markdown, that you can see in the form of markdowns. And after that, you're going to converting this markdown into the HTML so that you can also show it in our applications. Then after that, you're printing here the HTML formatted response to the consoles. So we first going to see here our testing part. I mean, we just see here the raw code without any kind of framework like Flask. And after that, you implemented it in the Flask. Now let's see what are the module that we are going to basically use it on here. So we can see that that are the module are used, and this is the purpose of that. So we're using here this asyncio to run the asynchronous functions concurrently. It's allowing the multiple Groq API call to be met in parallels. It's mean that you can see that we have the four rule. We have the four rule, right? We have the four rules. I mean, we just give it here the role to our large language model. It's called the role-based systems. So when using these asynchronous functions, it basically concurrently allowing the multiple Groq API calls. You can do the multiple Groq API calls one after another. Okay, and that's actually using these modules. And after that, you're using the Groq, which is nothing but the module itself for officials Groq Python's client library. So using this library, you can basically accessing here the large language model from Groq. So official Groq Python client library that is used to communicate with the Groq API for the chat completions. And then you know that this is the OS is about the operating system. It's basically for accessing the environmental variables, particularly the Groq API key that we are going to store it inside our .env file, and we can basically using here these OS to accessing the environmental variables. It's needed for the authentications, okay, because it's needed. Without the API key, you cannot access the large language models. And then you're using the .env, and from here we actually using this load.env functions. So it basically help us to load the environmental variable from a .env file that you can see, and in the Python environment to secure the API key for the management. Okay, so you know that the Groq API is free to use, and we can also invoke it. But if you have any suspension API like OpenAI or the Google Gemini, so you cannot share it to anyone else. Otherwise, पैसा बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा तब आपको भी बढ़ना पड़ेगा नहीं तो. Then after that, what you have, we have the markdown. So it's basically for converting the markdown formatted response from the Groq into HTML for the better presentations. Because we see in our workflow that it is receiving the response in the form of markdown, and after that we convert this markdown into HTML so that you can see some kind of header. I mean, if it's have the header, so you can easily show it in our applications. I mean, talking about the Flux applications, or if it have any sub header, so we can also printing this out in the Flux. So those times, rather than the markdowns, the formatted HTML is looks cool. Okay. Now what I can do is simply going to go on the code and try to see all of the things in details. Let's go on here in our code. So this is our code that's called AI teacher assistant. Simple, super simple code, nothing fancy. And also one more thing that we already creating here the announcement video for the multiverse, the multiverse DS multiverse, not multiverse actually. The DS multiverse, where we learn everything about the data structure and algorithms. So actually, I'm quite busy for my jobs, my family, even though my students. So that's why I don't get any kind of time. But the Friday, the Saturday and Sunday, I'm totally free. So that's time maybe I'll try to record all the videos. So I'll try to upload each one of the video about the GNAI, because this is a super simple projects. We also try to bring some of the advanced projects using the lang chains, the lang graph, the lang flow. We try to create all of them in at least one video in this series, this multiverse series. And in the DSO multiverse, we're trying to uploading here at least 2 to 3 questions. We're trying to solving them. Maybe we will uploading here our next video about the binary search soon. And after that, we also upload so many problem solving statement from the lit code as well. Now let's see this AI teacher agents. So what you can do first, we simply going to import it here the important library, the asyncio, the Groq, the OS, the .nv, and the markdowns. So in here, I basically store here our Groq API key. So it says Groq API key. This Groq API key, I just give it here a name, and after that, I am simply going to storing here the API key. So here you can basically get the API key. You get this API key in here. Just sign up with your Gmail account to this Groq Cloud, and then you can go on the models. You can see that which of the model are actually basically available on here. You can see Llama 3.3, 70 million versatile, the Llama 4, the DeepSeek R1 model. So you can just go on the API key section and just copy your API key. Okay, super simple. Now let's go on here. So after that, we simply going to loading here this load.nb, as well as I just give it here some kind of comment so that how you actually accessing here the GitHub repo, so you can understand it easily. Okay, so input OS from .nb, we input the load.nb and also the markdown, so that you can convert this markdown into the HTML formats. And then you're creating here functions called def get Groq client, and here you're passing here our API key for getting here our Groq client itself, I mean our large language models. Then you're creating here a functions called the def ask Groq, and here we actually added here this async operations. I mean, waiting for the response. How in the response is get it in the consequently, it will give the response. Okay. So you give it to the model name Llama 3.3 70 million versatile, and the string we returning them. And then you're creating a client using here these functions that you have. Let's call like Groq. Okay, get Groq client. It's not needed at all. And then after that, you're simply going to creating here this one. So let's say client.chatCompletion.create, and here you give it to here a message which is in system itself, and then you are a helpful assistant, AI teacher assistant, reply in markdown format with a well structured sections, and simulated the Google Doc links if it have. Okay, and then we have give it here and role, another role, and here in the role we passing here our prompts. So this prompt is nothing but coming on here in our functions itself, and then we simply going to choose in the first index. Okay, you can choose 0 and message.content, and it's just simply going to respond. It's super simple. It is super simple. I'm not going to, it's not a fancy. So chat completion.create, and here passing the messages, and here you just give it here some system prompt and the user prompt. Now this is the main part. This is the main part. So in this part, you can see you're creating here functions, or you can see methods called the run agents. So we basically creating here the 4 role-based agent. First one is professors, second one advisor, third one is librarian, and fourth one is the assistant itself. So just see the prompt clearly. So it should taking here on topics as well as the API key, because it's also calling here these functions called the ask Groq. And then we give it to the prompt. So prompt give it to here in the form of dictionary. So professors, so create a detailed knowledge based on topic that is provided on here. Include key concept applications, the fundamental, as just include a Google Doc link. Then same thing, you can see that design structured learning route map, because these advisors broke into beginner expert level, include the time, see, time estimated and simulated the Google Doc link. Okay, not Google, actually Google Doc link. So then you can see that Librarian curate a list of high quality resources, videos, docs, and blogs for learning with descriptions and as well as the simulate the Google Doc link. And then you can say create a practice exercise and real world project for mastering, including solutions, create a simulated Google Doc link. So you can see this is for the assistant because assistant would give you some practice questions and some real world projects for the masterings. And the professor obviously try to give you some kind of hint like me, and for key concept, the applications and the fundamental. And advisor is try to advise you, and librarian is basically give you some kind of resources. It might be the video, it might be the docs. Now we simply going to calling here is Groq methods, and then we simply going to passing here prompt, and in this prompt we give it here the role. So this role is coming from this prompt itself because if I try to access it, we can easily accessing here the role. So this is the role, and this is nothing but the prompt itself. So it is just give it a prompt role, and we passing here the prompt itself. So in this role, it just give it here come first the professors, then the advisor, the librarian, and the assistant. And based on that, we're simply going to creating here a list and try to gather everything in the asynchronous operations, and we simply going to give it here all the tasks, and which one is nothing but a raw response itself. Now, why is async operation? Because see, we just passing here the one prompt, I mean first prompt, the second prompt, third prompt, and the fourth prompt. We basically passing here the four prompt in a one sequence. So to pass it one by ones, that's why I'm basically using here this async operations to wait for that. You can see await. So after that, the first prompt is processed, and after that, the next one is coming up. Okay, and then you can see we're creating a response. So I basically store here our responses, and we're taking here the key. I mean, key is nothing but our role as well as our markdown test. So based on this prompt, I mean, the topic is provided by the users. It will just give it here some of the markdown test, and after that, we're simply using this markdowns, and you give it your markdown text, and we also give it here some extensions. Let's say fast code, this and L2 beer, and the tables and the send list. This is the extension you can give it to here in the case of markdown, and then now it's converted in the HTML. Now after that, we passing the HTML into the responses of the role. So for the each of the role, let's say for the professor role, we have our HTMLs, and for the advisor role, we have our HTML. For the librarian, we have our HTMLs like that. Okay. And then we're simply going to calling our main methods. So here you have our API key. So os.got, I mean get env, and you have our Groq API key. So you can also show it. I'll show you once at time. So you can see there's a Groq API key, and I just passed here my API key on here. Now after that, what I can do, we can checking on that if the API key is not available or not, or it's wrong. Otherwise, you're taking here a topic name, then if the topic is not here, let's say error topic can be empty, then you can see that, and then you can see that we're just printing here the role dot upwards. So you can also printing this out. I mean, you can running this out. Make sure that you are using Python 3.12 that I am actually using on here. So I am going to closing this out. So I need to give it your topic. So enter the topic you want to learn about. I am always the Python. Let's see the topic. So it will now using the Groq API, and then it will accessing here all the informations and try to use here our large language model. So wait for a few minutes, and after that I come again. All right, so you can see that we can got some of the HTML document. Okay, you can see some Google Docs link that you can see. And as well as you can see that the Python is a popular and versatile programming language, so widely used in various fields like web development, data analysis, artificial intelligence, and more. Okay, so you can see it from the librarian. Now it's from the librarian, you can see intermediate levels. It's from the advisors, you can see that. And now it's for the professors. Now why I generating here this kind of HTML the element? Because I have to show it in the Flask application, that's why. Okay, you can just show the markdown if you are just testing it out, but if you are creating here the applications, so it's better you can just show it in the form of HTMLs. So now let's closing this out. Now let's go on the main.py file. Okay, so now this is the same code, exact same code, just we have this imported all the things from import Flask. We import the Flask, the render template, and the request. And then we have the same code. There is the same code, just to creating here a route. So we're creating here a route, and method is get and the post methods, and then you can see the index.html. It's nothing but in my templates folder. So it's have an AI agent, a team, and then you can see that it just having an header tag, and if it is any kind of error, it will just show the errors. And we have a from, then inside this form we have one label, which one is nothing but for enter a topic that you are going to learn about. And then it will take in the input. You can see input, actually it has a name, topic called name, and also have a submit button that you can submit buttons. So if I go inside this main.py, that you can see, we give it a method, the get method, post methods. So the method is post, it's just taking the topic, that you can see topic, as well as it top getting here the API key from our dot environmental variables. And if the not topic or not API key, just it will give here one error. Please enter a topic or ensure the Groq API key is set. And then we're creating here an asynchronization for dot new event loop, so that it will creating here a new event, and also set the new event loop on here. Okay. And then after that, looping this until it's complete. So we running here our agent. See, this is the important part. You need to creating here a looping, because it will calling here the functions again. Because we have the four role based systems. So the first calling here the maybe the professors, then it will calling here the advisors, it will calling here the librarian, it will calling here the assistants. So that's why it will calling here loop by loop. Okay. So here all the information is coming up, and then we passing here this topics and the responses. So you can getting the responses in here. So the responses is on here. We're just going to show it. So responses.professor, responses.advisor, responses.librarian, and responses.assistant. And otherwise, we simply going to show it. I mean, we just mark it as safe, that you can see. And if any error, we just simply going to showing it on here. Okay, super simple. Nothing so here, nothing fancy. And now let's go on here, and now let's click on Python, run Python code. Okay, I hope so. In the next few tutorial, I am trying to cover some of the advanced topic as well. So now let's click on follow link. Now you can see that enter a topic about, you can give it here any kind of topic. So let's say data structure. Okay, let's end algorithms in Python. Okay, so I'm just going to click on here to generate the report. So let's click on here. So it will taking few seconds or a few minutes to accessing all the informations. If it is have any kind of error, it will just show the error in this box. Okay, so just waiting for that. You can see AI teaching agent suite. I just give it here this kind of name, as well as you can see here one logo, quite small logo. So let's wait for the output. Well, so you got our output. You can see learning suite for data structure and algorithm in Python. So professor, you can see how cool icon it have, how cool title is also have. So you can see academy advisors, so learning roadmap. So the key concept, introductions to data structure and algorithm in Python. So array, linked list, stack, queue, tree, graph, big notations, important, time complexity, the space complexity, web development, artificial intelligence, data science, sorting algorithm, searching algorithm, graph algorithm, you meaningful variable names, use comment and doc string, test the code, and also you can see the calculations. If I see in the academy advisors, you can see introduction to Pythons, beginner level 1 to 3 month, 14 to 100 hours, learn basic syntax and derive Google Docs link. You can see that the Google Docs link is also here. I can also click on here, but I'm not going to click it here. Understand and control the structure, functions, and module. Basic data structure and algorithm. You can see list tuple dictionary, and then you can see the Google Docs link. You can see if I hover over here, introduction to algorithms. You can see algorithms, basic algorithm like sorting, searching, and the graph traversal. Advanced data structure, stack, UE, tree, graph, and you can see implement advanced operation like tree traversals, important, pre-order, in order, the graph algorithm. So many of the graph algorithms available. You need to also learn about that. Dynamic programming, the most important one. It's also nightmare of the software engineers. Okay, so dynamic programming and the algorithm design. So learn about the divide and conquer methods and greedy and dynamic programming. Then the practice problem. So practice problem on platform like LeetCode, HackerRank, the code forces. So specialize on data structure. You can see that advanced algorithm technique, the system design, the research and development, teaching and mentoring, real world applications. If I see in the research library and recommendation resource, you can see three brew one brown. It's not even the video resources. You can actually use it, and free code camp. You can learn from here the code shaper pythons and the Google Doc, the Python data structures, algorithm, handbook, lead code block, the Geeks for Geek, real Python, the lead code, hacker rank, the code words. Okay. So you can also see the teaching assistant, the practice problem, the shorting algorithm, the searching algorithm, the graph algorithms, the dynamic programming, real-world projects, to-do list app, web scraper, the chatbot. You can see the solutions, bubble chart, linear search, the path first search, BFS and DFS, and also the calculations. Okay, cool. It just give me the response quickly as well as it looked awesome, right? So that's it for today now. I hope you enjoyed this full tutorial and make sure to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. I'll be back at the other tutorial. So till then, take care and bye bye.